Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining. I'm just going to waffle for 20 seconds or so to make sure the recording is all happening and the live stream is all happening. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to be talking about PowerApps and the Microsoft Power Platform. My name is Tom Morgan. I'm a product innovation architect at Modality Systems. All right, let's get started and go through what this session is going to be about. We're going to be talking about the Power Platform. We're going to be talking about PowerApps. A little bit like, I don't know if you've been doing any of these kind of workout sessions in the past couple of months when we've all been kind of stuck at home, some of the Joe Wicks, something like that, or maybe you've been trying to avoid them. That's okay. We're going to do one today. That way you can tell everyone that you've been doing them too. But we're going to do one for the Power Platform. So we're going to spend the first 20 minutes just kind of level setting with what the Power Platform is, what you can expect, the things it can do, and actually what makes up the Power Platform, because that's kind of important, because everyone talks about the Power Platform. Actually, what is it? What does it mean? So we're going to talk through some of that. We're then going to do, that's going to be our warm up, if you like. So we're going to do 20 minutes warming up, get everybody on the same page about what the Power Platform is, how PowerApps fit into that, the things you can do with PowerApps. Once we've done that, the next 20 minutes, that's when we're going to sprint, because we're going to go and build something from scratch, kind of from nothing to everything in 20 minutes, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. We are going to be tight for time, so this is going to go at a fair pace. So bear in mind, the slides will be available afterwards, the recording will be available afterwards. Just try and kind of hold on as we go through all of this stuff, because there's lots and lots of things I want to tell you and I want to get across, and I do want to show you this demo as well, and hopefully we'll get it all working inside the kind of 40 minutes that we've got together. Okay, so let's make a start. Power Platform. What is the Power Platform? You've probably heard it spoken about, you've heard it mentioned. What is it? Well, it's Microsoft's answer for kind of a no-code application platform. So what's a no-code application platform? What Microsoft think is that there's a whole class of problems for which actually you don't need a pro developer or a development team to come and build for you. They tend to be things around data, around moving data around, updating information, passing data between people, getting stuff approved, the kind of information worker flows that are really common in lots and lots of organizations. And you just need to kind of fill out a form. You need to kind of design a form and get somebody to fill it in, gather some data, process some data, create some more data, push these things around the organization. And lots of problems fall into this bucket. So that's what the Power Platform is meant to kind of address. And it's a whole collection of different products that work together to achieve a kind of goal. So we're going to go through what they are in a minute. They all connect data from lots and lots of different sources. And this is in part Microsoft sources, so things like SharePoint, SQL Server, whatever else it is, but they're also third party. So there are lots and lots of third party adapters to data for things like Salesforce, for Trello, for Jira, all sorts of things. And you can also write your own as well if what you need isn't there. So loads and loads of different options that you have. The whole point of this is to free up pro developers. Now, this isn't meant to be you don't need to have a pro development team. Absolutely you do. I'm a pro developer. I count myself in that kind of camp. And I'm not saying that you should all kind of get rid of all your pro developers. That's not the case at all. Pro developers are expensive. A development team is expensive, and I guarantee your development team is resource constrained right now. There are things that you can't do because there's just too much stuff on the backlog. This is about taking some of that stuff off the backlog that doesn't need to be done by a pro development team, that can actually be put together by business owners, business leaders, citizen developers who understand the flows that the business needs to go through, and just give them the tools to get that stuff done without getting developers involved. And I'm going to go through some of the kind of considerations and things to watch out for along the way. And all of this is done without it becoming a wild, wild west. The whole point of the Power Platform is that it gives IT a bit of governance, a bit of oversight into what's happening as well. It's a good point to remind you, have to take any number of questions at the end, but use the Q&A thing as we go along, and I'll come back to them because I've got too many things, because of the demo that's coming up, I've got so much stuff kind of set up on my computer. I don't want to mess it all up by trying to keep an eye on the Q&A as well. So I'll do Q&A at the end. Please use the Q&A box as we go through as you think of things, and happy to kind of go through them at the end. All right, so this is kind of a vanity slide about why you might use Power Platform. The kind of thing I look at this most of all is how much it's used by lots of different organizations. So it's more than just a flash in the pan. It's more than just Microsoft's latest idea. Microsoft are invested in this. They've been doing it for a number of years now. They are building on it, year by year. They're building new functionality into it and they're keeping it up to date. But these are kind of stats that you can share if you need justification for leaning into some of this stuff. Some of the stats are quite interesting. They're quite headline grabbing, actually, in terms of the ROI you can get if you kind of go down this path and kind of invest in some of the Power Platform. All right, so that's a kind of, all right, that's the Power Platform. But actually, what is the Power Platform really? Like really? Okay. It's made up of a number of different applications. We're going to go through each of these applications in turn to give you a brief overview of, if you've not ever used or seen it before, exactly what it does and where you might find it useful. Okay, this is really what the Power Platform is right now. It's made up of these 4 things. So first of all, let's look at Power BI. So Power BI is Microsoft's data visualization tool. What does that mean? It means it connects to data and you can make pretty graphs quickly and easily. That's kind of basically it. You can embed it in a web page and you can really manipulate graphs to be very kind of powerful and tell the story you want to tell really quite easily and simply. One of the really nice things about Power BI is it's meant to be interactive as well. So it's not just a static graph on a screen. If a user clicks an area of the graph or a bar in the graph, it will filter by that result and it will filter everything else on the page or the report. It's sort of up to you as the designer to tell a story. So it really helps people dig into and understand the data and gives them some tools to be able to kind of slice and dice the data on the fly by themselves as they're going along. So it's quite empowering to use actually a really well put together Power BI report with kind of the data, because you can explore the data to understand what it's telling you, and it's more than just the graph that you see on the page. One of the kind of considerations, I guess, for Power BI is that you can't just throw any old data at it and expect it to do magic. The data does have to be quite well formatted in order to kind of present the data you want to. There's definitely things you can do inside Power BI to help format the data and reshape the data. But again, do you want to get something up and running quickly? Do you want to really dig into understanding Power BI, becoming really like an advanced user of Power BI? Maybe you don't want to do that. So the more you can shape the data to be as clear as possible and in the simplest possible format, Power BI will help you then to kind of bring it to life with great kind of visualizations. PowerApps. So PowerApps in the title. This is like the big kind of, when you think about no code building applications, this is what people kind of think of. It's a GUI for building applications. That is what it is. It's like an IDE, which is a developing tool, like an integrated development environment, like Visual Studio might be. It's a bit like that, and it helps you visualize the application you're building. And it's a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever used the old Access database. Microsoft Access had a whole forms designer on the front of it to enable you to write forms to input data for the database. It's a bit like that. Sort of, and it helps you design and build applications. Those applications can be embedded into teams. We're going to use PowerApps in our demo to go and build something from scratch. So you'll get a real feel and you'll get to see how that works, how PowerApps works, and how you might use it. Again, you don't need to be a developer. There's lots of templates that come with PowerApps, and you can start from data, which is what we're going to do. And so you get a lot kind of built for you, if you like, and a lot templated, a lot of scaffolding to help you get going. So you don't need to be a developer. However, there's going to be a bit of a cliff. And so this is kind of one of the considerations really about, do you use PowerApps or do you use a pro development team? And it's going to come down to how well aligned the thing you're trying to solve lines up with what Microsoft think you should do in a PowerApp. If there's good alignment, then you should be fine. If you're trying to do something that's a bit odd, that requires manipulation of the data, requires a special control or a special functionality or something that's a bit odd, you're going to hit a bit of a cliff. And it hits that kind of cliff where customization inside Power BI, because it's the wrong tool for the job, becomes actually harder than trying to just do something from scratch as a developer. So it is worth it's worth investigating, it's worth looking at for sure. It's definitely worth trying to see if you can solve your problem in PowerApps, and if you can, fantastic. Just be aware that there is that kind of cliff edge of, if you like, of deviating away from the things that PowerApps is good at solving. And another kind of key point I think that's quite important, the applications that you build in PowerApps, they're still software. It's still application software, so it still needs maintaining, it still needs support. You don't kind of get out of any of that, I'm afraid. That it should be less because you're writing less code, so there's more of Microsoft's code and less of your code, and without being rude, like, that should mean fewer bugs, right? You'd hope. So there should be less of that support and maintenance overhead. However, you know, every time you release some software into the world, it's at a point in time, and then the world changes around it. Variables change, people's change, the process that this software was meant to like work with changes, and so your software needs to keep up to date. So that's a kind of another key point. It's still software, it still needs looking after, it still needs maintaining. It doesn't matter how you write it. Okay, so that's PowerApps. Power Automate. So if you've ever used if this then that, this is kind of similar to that. It's a way of pulling together different building blocks of the puzzle, and they get executed like in a pipeline of actions, almost like a run book. So this could be really useful for reacting to changes in data, or somebody filling in a form, or you can have it happen at 3 o'clock in the morning every day, whatever else it is. You can kick off these flows, and it's got all these connectors, same connectors as for PowerApps and Power BI, so you can reach into data like SharePoint data, or you can open a file in Excel or Word. You can change it, you can update it, you can do all sorts of things. You can send users messages, you can send notifications to your mobile, lots and lots of things you can do. Again, this comes with lots and lots of templates for common scenarios as well. Lots of approval flow stuff is in here. So there's an entire template, there's a whole process for doing approvals. So for instance, somebody could fill out a form in Microsoft Forms. You could create a Power Automate flow. These workflows are called flows in Power Automate. You could create a flow, a site like associated with that form that kicks off when the user submits, and then go and kind of do something with the data, go and get an approval from someone, and then when that gets approved, go and do something else with the data. So lots and lots of options to building up these kind of business process flows, and it's all done visually as well. Again, we're going to show go through some of this in a moment. Finally, the fourth kind of piece of the puzzle, if you like, Power Virtual Agents. So this is for building bots. Building bots, really kind of popular thing to do at the moment, and there's a couple of different ways of doing this. This is one of them. This is the kind of lowest of the the low code solutions, if you like, for building bots. Again, lots and lots of templates to help you. Don't need to be a developer to get started doing this stuff. Can still connect to all the same connectors and all the rest of it. Nice visual flowchart design to get stuff building straight away. You can kind of see what's going to happen, and you can build up these bots that are quite clever. You know, ask users for information and then take action on them, and go through some kind of conditional looping, present lots of options to users for them to choose, do all sorts of things. What's really nice is that these bots can execute Power Automate flows. So you can write your flow and have it happen as some process filling in a form. You could also then write a bot to collect the same information and kick off the same flow, so you're not repeating yourself. So that's quite useful as well. And then you can also integrate anything that you do here. You can then, if you get to that cliff edge that I spoke about, where you're thinking this has got too complicated now, and I need to bring in the developers really who kind of understand how bots really work, and I've kind of reached the limit of what I can do with this visual GUI and all the rest of it. Actually, your work is not lost. You can integrate with bots that are built with Bot Framework, which is the kind of pro development tool used for writing bots. And that's actually really nice because your development team can build the really hard bits in Bot Framework and expose them to you as a user, and you can see them in the GUI. You can just drop them into your Power Virtual Agent bot flow. That's a really nice way of working. All right, so I warned you this would be a quick run through, right? Going at a bit of a lick, but it's important that we kind of wrap all this stuff, level set, and then get into the demo. So what is the Power Platform really? Okay, it's these four things. It's PowerApps to create and manage your data. It's Power Automate to help you collect new data, go and perform these business process actions with your data and drive processes. It's Power Virtual Agents, again, to collect the data and present data to users in these kind of new and exciting ways around bots. and then it's Power BI to visualize your data. That's what the Power Platform is. Okay, a couple of things we haven't really touched on. Data storage. Your data needs to live somewhere. It needs to be safe, it needs to be secure, it needs to be compliant, and it needs to be able to be accessed from all of these things. You've got some options. If your data is already in a third-party system that you have a Power Platform connected to, then great, you can carry on using that. If it's in a database, great, you can carry on using that. If your data is in SharePoint, great, you can carry on using that. There's also something called Dataverse, which used to be called the Common Data Service. It's like a data platform for the Power Platform. So if you are looking for somewhere to put data because you haven't got any yet, you could also have a look at Dataverse as a place to put data. There's lots of nice tie-ups at the moment with PowerApps and Dataverse inside Microsoft Teams that don't require additional licensing and are nicely governed as well and compliant and secure. So definitely worth looking at if you're starting out kind of completely greenfield. However, I'm kind of here to tell you, if you've already got loads and loads of data in SharePoint that you just want to make easier to access, that's fine too. And in fact, that's what we're going to do in the demo. Finally, just a quick slide on the Power Platform and Teams. So there's lots of different ways you can integrate together the Power Platform and Teams. You can add Power Automate to your applications, and you can put them into tabs, in Teams, in channels. You can post to channels from Power Automate from those bots. You can post directly into team channels. You can also access Power Virtual Agents in Teams and build from entirely inside Teams, and exactly the same with Power Automate solutions as well. And you do get some kind of benefits doing that in terms of licensing breaks as well. Weirdly, like if you build PowerApps inside Teams, then you don't need additional licensing for those things that you're building. So kind of gets quite complicated quite quickly. And kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but just be aware that's a thing you can do. You can go and find both PowerApps and Power Virtual Agents in the Teams App Store and start building today inside Teams without needing to kind of go and find anything else out. Okay, let's go and build something. We're doing all right for time, I think. So let's do this then. So this is what we're going to build. And I was kind of thinking about what to build and how we could build something sort of relatively quickly that used as much as the Power Platform as I could think of and was still kind of genuinely a little bit useful. And so this is what I've landed on. So lots of people are going back to work at the moment, and for lots of people that means kind of returning to the office for the first time, and for employers that's a bit of a challenge in terms of the numbers. And also, is everything in place? Is it COVID secure, etc., etc., etc. So I thought, what about some kind of COVID employee reporting thing where employees can report things that they see that are good or bad? So they might be going to an office for the first time and they see something that is confidence inspiring and they think that's actually really nice, that's useful, I'm glad that is there, that's made me happier. They can take a photo of it and they can kind of report it as a good thing. Similarly, they can report bad things, things that need changing, things that need fixing, things they're not happy about. Somebody in head office or wherever can review those things and decide that some of them need improvement and can mark them as such. And for those things that need improvement, they want to go and start a conversation in Teams to go and get that stuff done. Okay, that's a kind of a bit of a solution there, right? It's you can see how you could change that as well to support lots of different scenarios, but kind of out of the box, that sort of thing sort of makes sense. So what are we actually talking about? This is the plan. Okay, so the user reports their observation using their mobile phone, takes a photo. Somehow they get it into the system. Head office has some kind of app to look through those photos, the observations, along with any kind of messages, and triages them for improvement. Okay, and then for some of those selective observations, they can start a new conversation in Teams and resolve those problems. And then when that happens, the image, the details, everything that is needed to solve that problem gets shipped into Teams where the conversation is happening to get the problem resolved. Cool, sounds good. So how are we actually going to do this? So for the first part, we're going to use Power Automate, which is the thing with flows. We're going to use the mobile app. So I can show you something you can do in Power Automate to create a flow that a user can then initiate from their mobile phone using just the built-in Power Automate app that is free to download and anyone can have. That's going to automatically upload the image to a SharePoint document library. So we're going to use SharePoint as our document store. We're then going to build a Power App that looks at that document store and builds an application based on it for users to iterate through the images and the associated information. And then for those particular images that users want to kind of take further, we're going to add a button so they can go and start a conversation in Microsoft Teams. So that's the plan. Okay, so let's go and do this. All right, we are just about on time. All right, so first things first. So this is my document library. Okay, it's a regular document library I've created in SharePoint. There is nothing magical about it. It's a regular document library. What I've done is added some additional columns. So if you don't know you can do this, in the document library, you can add extra columns, extra meta information about your document, about your file. I've added some to support what we want to collect about our observations. So office location, improvement needed, reported by, and a description. And I've already got a couple of images in here. Here's one that someone's taken. Here's another one. And you can see there's some notes against this. You know, new floor markings look good. We need more of these for the entrance. Okay, so this is where new observations are going to come into. Okay, so let's build some of those new observations. So the first thing we're going to do then is build a new Power Automate flow. So let me, I should have stayed where I was already, never mind. Let's go back again and create a new flow. Let's start from you can build it from a template or you can build it from scratch. We're going to build from scratch and we're going to use an instant cloud flow. So you can see I've got some options for scheduled, desktop, automated. I'm going to do an instant one because it's going to be something that a user kicks off by themselves. And I'm going to choose this manually trigger a flow from the flow button from mobile. And I'm just going to call it COVID-19 employee reporting. And I'll just try and spell it correctly as well. So let's create one of those. Now I can open this up and I can add inputs. These inputs that I put in here, the users are going to get asked for when they go and use this flow button. And you'll see exactly what that looks like in a minute on my mobile. Okay, so I'm going to add something about the office building. I'm going to add another one for the description. And then this one is going to be a file, which is going to be the image. Okay, and so that is going to be the picture of the thing that we want to put in our document library. Okay, fine. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. Once we've done all this and we get this information in, we want to go and create a file in this document library. So we can do that in Power Automate. If we look for SharePoint, you'll see the SharePoint connector, and then you can see all of these actions that we can do against SharePoint. Lots and lots of things we can do. The one we're interested in is creating a file. Okay, so it needs the site address and the folder path for our document library. So I'll just choose that. And it's quite clever in like it kind of prompts me, it knows, and can help me through just by like clicking through. The name of the file, now this needs to be something unique. And so what's really nice though is that each of these boxes exposes information. So as part of this, I have access to all the information that came out of this box, and I have access to it over here just by using this dynamic value. So you can see all of this stuff, not only the questions that I've asked to be put in, but also a whole bunch of stuff about timestamp and the user and stuff as well. So I'm going to use the timestamp because I'm pretty sure it's going to be unique. And then the file content itself is just going to be the image. Okay, so that's going to create the file. Now you'll notice I didn't actually add any of the additional columns, the additional data here. And that's because the create file button doesn't really, operation doesn't really know about them. What I really need to do is do this bit first and then go and get the file properties for the file that I've just created. And then once I've done that, it will know and let me then update all of those extra things. So let me just do that real quick. Again, same thing. Oh, no. Oh, get in the right place. Okay, so for the ID, I'm going to use the ID of the file that was just created. So now you can see in this create file, which is referencing this operation here, I've got an item ID. Okay, so I can just pop that in there. This is then going to get the file properties for that particular file. I can then use the next one to then go and update those file properties. And the really nice thing now is that if I select this address and this library and the item ID as well. From the file properties, it's pulled in all these things that I now need to do. So these are just the custom columns that I created in my SharePoint document library. So now I can keep those, I can update those, but I want to not use this and not use this. I want to use this, which is the information that the user put in. So if I go down far enough, I'll find office building. I'm going to keep improvement needed as no for everything to start with. I didn't actually ask the user to put their name in. So I don't have a reported by, but I do have the username and user email. That gets put in for free by PowerAutomate by the button, and description as well. So let's do that and do that and find the description. Okay, and that's it. That gives us everything we need to create a flow that we can now share out to users. And then for every user that's got the PowerAutomate mobile application on their mobile device, they will see exactly what that looks like. So let's try that then. Okay, so this is the PowerAutomate application and the mobile application. And you can see there's a button section in it. And you can see that our new COVID-19 employee reporting thing is there. And so let's just do this then. So the office building, we're going to put in like head office. We're going to choose head office. We're going to choose a picture of a dispenser because we haven't got one of those yet. And we're going to put in the message dispenser is empty. Okay, so that's going to run, and that's the user experience. Okay, that's what the users experience. They get nicely prompted to put stuff in, and then they're off again. What does that look like for us? Okay, if I come over to this document library, hopefully in a second, or maybe I need to refresh. Let's just refresh and see. I now have third thing in here. So I have a new item in here, head office, dispenser is empty. And if I click here, I see my dispenser. Okay, perfect. So we've got a flow for getting this information into our document library that works. We can put that out to users. It's nice and safe. They don't have to do anything. It's on their mobile device. It kind of works wherever the PowerAutomate application works. So iOS and Android, perfect. Now, we need to make this bit a bit better as well. So how are we going to make this bit a little bit better? So what we can do now is use a PowerApp to create an experience that users can use to cycle through this stuff to kind of look at it a bit better. So let's go and create a new application. So this is PowerApp. So park everything, that was PowerAutomate. This is now PowerApps, okay? And we're going to use this to build something that we can use to access our data. We're going to start from SharePoint because all our data is in SharePoint, and this is going to scaffold us up a pretty good app that we can get started with to start with. Okay, so I need to connect to my SharePoint site, and it's going to pick up some recent sites. I need to type in the name of the document library correctly. Like so. Okay, and it's going to create an application for us. And this just takes a second. And when it's done, what it will do is create a basic kind of details, like a list and details application. So you can see it's already tied it to our data. So we've got 3 items in here. It's kind of tried to pick what it thinks is a sensible thing to put here and kind of got it wrong because we don't really want the name. What we really want is the description, but we'll fix that in a minute. And then we have a details screen with this information, and we have an edit screen as well. So we can make a couple of changes real quick. We don't really want the user here. So if I click on it and come over to advanced, you can just about see under my picture. If I can change the text of this from modified, I'm going to change it to description like that. That's better. And you can see how it changes in real time with the data. So it's actually really easy to see what's going on. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get rid of extracted text and title because we're not really using it. What I will do is add in the image because that would be quite a nice thing to see. If I can just see it, there we go. Let's pop an image in here. Let's do it down here, make it a little bit bigger. And then for the actual image itself, so we're going to do so I'm using what's called the Browse Gallery, which is a reference. So it's called Browse Gallery 1, which is a reference to this thing here on the left, which is the list of things, the list of items that we had in our SharePoint thing. So I can use Browse Gallery.selected, and that's really the thing that's been selected and showing on the screen. And then I have access to all the same information about from the SharePoint document library, including a link to the item, which in our case is a link to the image, which means that it will render the image nicely. Perfect. So that's pretty good. A couple of other little changes we can make. Let's add in a label for the description because we don't have that yet. So let's do that. And then over on the text, again, this Browse Gallery 1.selected, and I'm going to put in the description. And if I want to, I can just kind of change the formatting on this a little bit, make some sort of changes, because that's the kind of really important bit really for people kind of reviewing what's going on. Then the only other change I want to make is that this improvement needed section should really be yes and no, and the default is on and off, which isn't great. So if I actually select the actual item itself and again come to advanced, you'll see a lot of properties exist for all of these things, and one of those is what the false and true text should be. So I can quickly change that to no and yes. Okay, so couple of kind of superficial changes. At any point in time, I can go up and click. Oh, you can't quite see it because my face is in the way. Top right hand corner, there's a play button, and that allows you just to kind of see what your application will look like. And I can navigate through, have a look, check it's all working. I can edit these as well. So if I was to go to this one with more of these for the entrance, I can click edit. I can toggle, let's say, improvement needed and save it and come back. And then just so you think it's not all made up, if I come back to my document library here, you can see this just changed from a few seconds ago to improvement needed of yes for that item. Okay, so this actually works as an application, even though we're still just kind of testing it out. Okay, the final thing I want to show you, just about the time. Let's go back into the detail again. We're going to add a button, because what if we want to actually start a conversation in Teams based on one of these items? So yeah, we need to improve this. How are we actually going to do that? Well, we can add in a button. Let's do that now. Let's put a button down here and let's call it something like start conversation. Oop. There we go, a bit like that. There we go. Now, we've got lots and lots of options for what should happen when you click this button. The one we're going to use is Power Automate. So we have another flow, which I'm not going to build from scratch because of time, but I am going to show you what it looks like. And what this flow does, oh, sorry, hang on, my flows, that's what I want. What this flow does is goes through and creates a new channel in a specific team I have, and then posts an adaptive card into that channel. An adaptive card is just like text. You can just post text if you want. Adaptive cards are just like the fancy way of doing it. It allows you to put in images and just lay the format out a little bit better. This is all done using adaptive cards. If you're interested in adaptive cards, go to adaptivecards.io. There is like a nice designer you can use to kind of build up how you want your card to look. That's what I did. And then you can just grab the code underneath that you need to put in here. The other interesting thing about this flow is that it's peppered with these dynamic values, which come from this PowerApps kind of operation here. And these are things then that get passed through from PowerApps into Power Automate. And you'll see how that works, well, right now, actually, because what I'm going to do in Start Conversation is click Power Automate. And I'm going to choose my Power App that I want to trigger. It's going to think about it, and they're going to talk to each other, and it's going to come back and tell me that actually I need to put in a load of values here. You can see it's put them at the top. It's going to run it, but actually I need to put in a whole load of values to pass through. I'm going to cheat because if you watched me type it all, it just wouldn't work. All I'm doing is passing through, again, that Browse Gallery 1.selected thing to kind of pull out the selected item. And I'm just passing through all this data to PowerApps, to Power Automate, sorry, so that it can do stuff for me. All right, so let's hit play on that again. Let's go through let's try our newly created dispenser is empty. So I might think that actually we need to start a conversation about this, get something changed about this, get something started and do something with this. So I can hit this start conversation button. And when I do that, If I come over here to my team down here, you can just see it just changed and it just pops up with one hidden channel. And that's because it's just created this brand new channel with the date and the time and the title of dispenser is empty. It's created a new conversation. It's pulled in the picture and it's pulled in the title, the information that is in that document library. And this is now ready for me to start a conversation, put in the people I need to get the stuff done, to kind of get this item resolved. Okay, that was a real whirlwind for which I kind of apologize a little bit, but not really, because it's kind of fun to keep it going quickly. The final thing I should show you actually is that all of this, you don't need to bounce around between the applications if you don't want to, because actually you could take this whole Power App and you could expose it inside Microsoft Teams as well as an application just like this. And then users have got a single place to go. You could see somebody in head office reviewing items through this application here, making changes, going through, clicking the button, starting the conversation, getting stuff resolved, deleting it and carrying on. That's a nice kind of flow that you've got going on there that users can have to kind of just meet these business processes for this particular kind of scenario we've set up around reporting inside, kind of COVID employees going back to work and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so coming back to the slides, if I can find them. Didn't have time for some things, didn't have time to show you that actually you could take Power BI, like one of the other things we haven't done, and you could just point it at that SharePoint document library as well. And then you'll get really rich data about how many people are reporting COVID-19 things, what location are they reporting from, how many of them are resolved, how many are not resolved, all these things, because the data is just there. So you can actually pull that information out really nicely and put it into Power BI as well. And then you've got executive level reporting for your new application as well. And also didn't have time to show you, just because we only had 20 minutes really, didn't have time to show you using a Power Virtual Agent bot as well to kind of collect those observations, which is the other way you could do it. You don't have to do it in that Power Automate flow, although that's quite nice. It's quite nice being able to just choose off the mobile phone, choose your image. Actually, you could do all of that in Power Virtual Agent bot as well if you wanted to, and just have the user input the information from there. Okay, I'm trying to leave a few minutes at the end for questions, but in summary, what I want to tell you, what I'm here to tell you really, you can use the Power Platform to create powerful solutions. You can use it to create powerful solutions today. You don't need to be a developer. I really didn't write any code apart from the odd bit of typing, which hopefully is explainable. I didn't write any code to make that entire solution work. And you can have developers use Power Platform as well. This isn't just for non-developers. I think it's useful for citizen developers. Actually, it's a really useful tool for developers as well. Either that's proof of concepts, or if somebody asks a development team to do something they think could be done in the Power Platform, get it done in half the time in the Power Platform. Why not? Considerations, I think, beware the cliff edges. Like you just have to use it and try it, and then you'll kind of get a feel for what you can do with it and what you can't do with it, and whether the things you're trying to do with it are well aligned to what you're trying to do. We can help with that as well. We've got experience, obviously, building Power Apps and building Power Platform solutions. We can tell you if what you're trying to do is easy, hard, or impossible on the Power Platform, whether there's a better way of doing it. And again, consider that ongoing support and maintenance costs as well. All right, that's pretty much everything from me. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to have a really big drink of Coke, and I'm going to wait and just look through some of your questions. Okay. So there's a question here about, would you create a new channel for each question, or just post an existing channel? Yeah, entirely up to you. I created a new channel and put it in kind of to show two reasons really. The first was showing off that you could do it in Power Automate. You could just create a channel, get the ID back, and then post into it. That's a bit more interesting than just picking up an existing channel and posting to it. But absolutely, you could just do everyone as a conversation inside a single channel. It's very much up to how people want to work, really. There might be a nice flow where you deliberately delete a channel when like the problem's resolved, and that way your list of channels is just like your open list of issues. Kind of depends what you want. Like you've already got the document library, so you're not losing information, you're just losing the conversation that got the issue resolved, right? So it's not maybe the end of the world to just delete those channels. Other people would rather start a new conversation each time. It's entirely up to you. You can do it either way. Yeah, very, very much up to you. Cool. Any other questions? You'll need to be quick at your typing. If not, what I will say is that this is all going to be recorded, so you can download the slides. I know I went at a fair pace. We only have 40 minutes and I wanted to get across all of that stuff and show you the demo. Feel free to watch it back at half speed if you want to. I won't be offended. But if you've got any questions, please do reach out, ping me, find me on Twitter, or just reach out through your contacts that you've got already. And I'm sure there's lots of kind of contact information that goes alongside this registration and stuff as well. So you can always kind of get hold of us and ask us any follow-up questions that you have. If not, thanks very much.